Hey guys, it's your girl Shonna Etienne, the founder of the Center for Counseling and Holistic Services and the owner of Cultivate, Elevate, Activate, where I help new and upcoming entrepreneurs transform their pain into profit. I'm doing this video on the interview of Dr. Umar Johnson and Roland Martin of TV1. Boy, do I have a lot to say, so I am not going to waste any time. I'm going to jump right in. If you guys are on social media at all, follow me on YouTube. Just put in the name Shonna Etienne, or you can follow me on Facebook at DrShonna, where I share a book club, a virtual book club with Facebook Live every morning at 8:15 in the a.m. So let's talk about this. I took notes because I want to stay on point, because y'all know me. If y'all been following me, you know I get very passionate about certain things. And this one right here, this video right here got me worked up. So I'm going to try to keep it cool, calm, and collected. Let's get started. Number one. So I love the way Dr. Umar Johnson opened up in the video. The statement he made was, as long as you have a skill, you can always feed your family. But if the only thing you have are college degrees, you might end up on the unemployment line. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? What is wrong with that statement? Ain't nothing wrong with that statement. More power to you, Dr. Umar Johnson. I love it. If you can combine the two, if you can combine your degrees with your skill, you be fire. And I absolutely agree with him, and I love everything that he said. Go ahead, Dr. Umar Johnson. You got that one. Give it to you. So then they go on, they ask him about his degrees. And I want to say this. I love the way he answered that question. Very detailed. See, if you're so concerned about his degrees, why didn't you do your own research before you came on the show? If you think that he is not who he says he is, if you think he does not have a PhD, you can easily verify yourself. Don't rely on blogs. We know haters write blogs. Why are you relying on that? Don't rely on the root. Are you serious? Are you serious, Roland Martin? Don't rely on nobody's blog. You can verify that right online. I can give you the website and if you're interested, but it's right online. You could do it. Just pay a little bit of money, like $10, and you get it. So why are you bringing that up? We still on the topic of his degrees? Give me a break. Moving on to number two. So I like the way Dr. Umar Johnson responded to the question of his degrees once again. Not only was he very detailed and disclosing his degrees and the universities in which he obtained the degrees from, but he also said people question his degrees because his narrative is a whole lot different from the average scholar, and he is telling the truth. And if you don't share the scholarly world's point of views and their opinions, then they move to discredit you. They move to ostracize you. They move to analyze you, to make you seem like you're not smart. For the fact that Roland Martin brought this up on a show, that concerns me. That really does bother me, because you could have cut through all of this crap and done your own research and verified that he had degrees, and you could have moved on. You didn't even have to address the question. You could have just said to the audience, for all you guys who are questioning whether or not Dr. Umar Johnson has degrees from the university he has stated, here are all his degrees. How about you do that? That would have been a lot better. But no, you had an angle, Roland Martin, and you had a focus, and you was trying to discredit him. Number three. So then Roland Martin brings up the conversation he had, Dr. Umar Johnson had on the Breakfast Show, where he talked about Mandarin being the language in South Africa. And so I like the way Dr. Umar Johnson handled it. A fist and two snaps. Yes, a fist and two snaps. He handled that tight. What he said was, he clarified himself. That was a mistake. I should have made it clear that I was speaking in reference to the school system. He clarified it. He took accountability and responsibility. He apologized. Loved it. There's nothing else you can say about that. You can't say nothing to a man that's able to take accountability and responsibility as well as apologize. That right there, righteous. That was power. I like that. Moving on. Number four. So then they bring up the topic of interracial marriages. Now, this is what I'm going to say about this. This is where the conversation started to take a left turn. This is where I started to get hot and bothered. I started to get annoyed. Not at the topic itself, but how his guests were acting. And I started to scratch my head, and I said to myself, what is their angle? What are they trying to do? Who's funding this portion of the show? Why are they doing this? What are they trying to prove? What are they afraid of? And that's where I stopped at. I stopped right there on that question. What are they afraid of? So I'm going to speak about this a little later about what they're afraid of. But they brought up interracial marriages. And this is what Dr. Umar Johnson had to say. He said a black man that is not with an African woman will have a difficult time getting his respect. He said his respect is his opinion. So why are you mad? As my son and daughter would say, why are you mad, son? Why are you mad? It was his opinion. But y'all got really angry. I wonder why. I think he made some valid points. If we keep on breaking down the black family, we are going to continue to be at the bottom of the totem pole. We are the lowest in economic status and education, and you name it. We are the lowest a lot on the totem pole. So the fact that he has this opinion and it makes you so mad, why couldn't you just sit back, tuck your emotions in your pocket, get it off your sleeve, sit on that, sit on your emotions? Why couldn't you just do that and understand it from his position, from his point of reference, and from his views? It doesn't mean that you have to agree with him, but you can listen to him without becoming so worked up and so angry. So you asking him, does he respect President Barack Obama and Harry Belafonte? I think you was trying to trip him up. I think you was trying to trigger him. You was moving to discredit him. The nasty sly tricks of the mainstream dominant society. The nasty tricks. That's exactly how they communicate. And that, Roland Martin, I saw in you. Disrespectful. Highly disrespectful, in my opinion. Dr. Johnson caught Roland Martin on his angle. And what I mean by that, hey, Dr. Johnson is a psychologist. He was able to see the BS that Roland Martin was trying to do. And he called him out on it. He said, you naming these people for what? This status don't mean nothing for me. And that was a good question. So I said to myself, why is he naming these people? You naming them for what? Dr. Umar Johnson ain't stupid. He saw right through that. And what he said was, he asked them, you saying that to say what? He didn't answer that question to Dr. Umar Johnson. See, so your social status ain't going to change Dr. Umar Johnson's views. I don't care who you brought up. The social status of those people that you brought up, the popularity, their celebrity, is not going to change Dr. Umar Johnson's views and opinions. Why can't you just accept his views and opinions? No one's saying you got to agree with it, but why can't you just accept it and move the hell on? Why you got to discredit him? I don't like that tactic. Nasty. You strengthen the black family and you keep black families together, especially through marriages, comes wealth. It comes wealth. Every other race, ethnicity, and culture knows this. Study other races, ethnicities, and cultures as it relates to marriage and what they do to maintain their lineage, their bloodline. They all know that that brings generational wealth. They all know it. They all know it. But the minute a black person says that this is what we should be moving to do, there's a problem with it. There's a problem with it. People got to get on nasty about it. That's something that really bothered me. I don't really understand that. Then they move on to his ancestry with Frederick Douglass. They move on to his ancestry, his lineage. But here's the question I have to ask Roland Martin and his crew. If you guys can get a written statement from the relatives of Frederick Douglass, then you could have got them to be a guest on your show. I think it's rude, it's disrespectful, and impolite to make a statement to Dr. Umar Johnson about his lineage to Frederick Douglass and not put him in front of his accusers, the ones that are saying that he's lying. I think that is disrespectful and is unprofessional. You have the access to do it. If you could not have him face his accusers, why bring it up? Because it's the same old rhetoric. It's the same conversation we having with him over and over again. If they're so concerned, meaning the family of Frederick Douglass, if they're so concerned with what Dr. Umar Johnson is saying, bring them on the show. Let them sit down like grown women and grown men and dialogue with him themselves. Don't take the coward road out of this. Do not try to set him up to trigger him, because you know things like that is going to get him upset. Why would you even try to do this? Again, what is your angle, Roland Martin? What were you trying to prove? I just didn't like it. But I love the fact that Dr. Umar Johnson, he clearly broke it down. And not only did he break it down, he gave family names that you can always go back and research, like Stephen Bailey. He broke it down. You can go ahead and do your research. And if you're not prepared to dialogue with an intellect like Dr. Umar Johnson, then don't bring up things you ain't prepared to dialogue about. Because now you looking stupid, in my opinion. Number 7. Roland Martin brings up the fact that Frederick Douglass had married a white woman. Not only did Dr. Umar Johnson maintain his belief system, but he checked them on the white women thing. Like he said, he married a white woman after his wife, his black wife, and with whom he had black children with, after his wife died, he married a white woman. And like he said, and yes, Frederick Douglass too has to be held responsible for stepping out of his race. Now, me making a statement is what Dr. Umar Johnson says. It doesn't mean that I agree with it, and it doesn't mean I disagree with it. What I'm saying to everyone, especially Mr. Roland Martin and his crew, that's his opinion. Why does his opinion bother you so darn much? Number 8. So then you bring up the school. You bring up the school, Roland Martin, asking him for the updates. Now, I will say this. You had every right to do that. I'm not going to throw any shade there. I'm not going to check nobody on that, because you had every right to do that, because as constituents who have donated into the school system, they have a right, into the school, this ideal school that's coming about, allegedly, they have a right to ask questions about it because they're constituents. So you're right for bringing that up. But I will say that I love the way Dr. Umar Johnson answered the question. He was very direct. He let you know the school that he was pursuing was sold. He also let you know how much money, $700,000 or so, is in that account. And he also let you know that he was still focused. He was still on track, and he still is going to open up a school for the African child. If you understand where he's coming from, you would not have asked him that question. What angle were you coming at this from? What are you trying to prove? What is so wrong with Dr. Umar Johnson wanting to open a school for African children? What is so wrong about that? Jewish people have their yeshivas. They have their private schools that their kids go to, that they educate and train up. And if you go to an Asian community, they have all their little Asian daycares and stuff like that, their little Asian schools all around for their children. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? There's Muslim schools. What is wrong with that? People know the value in educating their own, because the American school system is not going to give African children the African American history they need to have. They're not going to do it. American school system is not going to tell the African child that he or she is beautiful. They're not going to do it. That he or she is smart, they're inventors, they're intelligent, they're creative, they're talented, they're gifted. The African-American child is never going to learn that in a white school system. So the fact that he wants to open up a school for African children, you need to lay off of it, Roland Martin, because there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I support the brother in that angle. But I don't see anything wrong in anyone wanting to start a school system for African children. It's an independent school. If you don't like it, you don't have to send your child to an independent school. He's not petitioning the U.S. government to open up a black school. He said he's going to do it himself. There's nothing wrong with that. Number 9, here come Miss Lauren. I think that's her name. Miss Lauren starts to get all masculine on the stage. Now, Lauren, baby doll, baby down, for one sister to another sister, you got to recognize energy. And how you went into that dialogue, Norman, your energy was just all wrong. Your energy was negative. Dr. Umar Johnson, up to that point, was not arguing with anybody. He was dialoguing with Roland Martin. He was conversing with him at a respectable tone and on a respectable level. And they were having a conversation so that it can be easily followed without the chaos. So why did you bring chaos into the conversation? And if you're unsure, Lauren, how you did this, I will let you know. First of all, the way you open up your statement was, you too smart for this. That is an insult, and you know that, Lauren. Do not insult his intelligence with that statement. Do not insult my intelligence with that statement. You made a nasty negative statement that was laden with negative energy, and then you got all masculine on the stage as though you making it seem like he was coming at you. Did he come at you? Yes, he did. But you started it, Lauren. You started it. You should watch your words. And you should know, because you sound like an intelligent woman, you should know that words are very powerful and they're packed with energy. You get to choose if your words are going to have positive energy or negative energy. You made a decision. You chose the negative route. So you got negative energy in return. That is the law. It's a universal law. What you put out has got to come back to you. So he did not respect you from that point on. It wasn't a bang up on a woman type of thing on the stage. You put out an energy of disrespect. So you got back what you deserved. Next time, come at it with a little bit more intellect and a little bit more tact, because the conversation up until it got to you was flowing. That is all I'm going to say about that. You triggered him and you knew that. So number 10. Lauren, Dr. Umar Johnson tried to have you see his view when he said it was about systematic empowerment, but you were so hell-bent on proving your point that you couldn't hear it. It's not saying that you had to agree with him, but what you should have done was carry yourself with a little more decorum so that you can be able to hear his point of view and have a dialogue around his point of view. But instead, you wanted to be attacking him. That was tasteless. It was tasteless and senseless, in my opinion. I like to say that, in my opinion. First of all, you have to understand our struggle. And taking action to bring systematic empowerment to blacks are different things. You have to understand our struggle as a black people. White people may sympathize with our struggle, but it doesn't mean that they understand our struggle. That's the difference, Lauren. But if you would have kept your mouth shut long enough, you would have heard that. But what we are experiencing as black people in this country is a destruction of us mentally as a people, spiritually and physically. We are being destroyed left and right. And we don't build, they meaning the powers that be, the white system structure, does not build us back up. They destroyed us physically, they destroyed us mentally, they destroyed us spiritually by ripping away our history. All right, telling us that we aren't who we say we are, beating us until we agree with their point of view, shooting us until we agree with their point of view, lynching us until we agree with their point of view. They have broken us down. So what he's saying when he says systematic empowerment, because you have destroyed us as a people, the bare minimum that you can give us is systematic empowerment. That means dismantling the system of racism, white supremacy, racism, white superiority, and white privilege. Bottom line. Number 11. Did I do number 10? I did. Number 11. There's not a white person in America who has ever worked to systematically eliminate the white privilege that they benefit from vis-a-vis your oppression. That's what Dr. Umar Johnson say. I have nothing else to say to that, but right on, brother. You're right. You're right. But that comment bothered people. They were triggered. They were angry. So my question once again is, why you mad, son? What you mad about? Why are you so mad? You have a brother that's speaking for black people, saying that he loves black people, including you, Lauren, including you, Scott, including you, James, including you, Roland. He loves you guys, but you guys, your energy on that stage indicated to me that you hate him. Why? What about what he is saying makes you so uncomfortable? What do you fear? Because I know the underlying emotion that motivates a lot of people is rejection and fear. So what are you guys afraid of? Number 12. So James, I'm on to you, James. I'm on to you, James. Ooh, like white on rice. James, you made my stomach turn. So now you mad, James, that you result to name calling? You so angry you have to say you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. You have to say that many times for what? For what? We all know that calling people names is not good, James. And if you too was a professional, and if you too was mastering the art of communication, you too would know that name calling is a trigger. So I'm going to ask the question again. What was the angle of the panel? What were they setting out to do besides trigger Dr. Umar Johnson and get him upset? What was the focus? It was nasty, I'll tell you that much, to say the least. But what was the focus, James? So no one, here's James, called Dr. Umar Johnson a liar, but you all hear Dr. Umar Johnson called James a coon? That's not fair. Name calling is not fair regardless. Now, I agree. I'm not going to call my brothers and sisters coons, sambos, niggas, anything like that. I agree. I agree with Roland Martin. But Roland Martin, if you're going to be all strong, you can't be wrong and strong at the same time. If you're going to be all strong, turn around and look Dr. Umar Johnson in his eyes and let him know that you will not tolerate name calling on your show. You could have even looked him in the eye. But when he responded to you and said he called me a liar, he called me a liar, it needs to be fair across the board. He looked you directly in the eye like a man will do. So if anything else, I'm going to say to you, Dr. Roland Martin, man up. Man up. You felt that way? Look him back in the eye. But I do agree with racial epithets should not be used on the show. But I just don't like the way you went about trying to put a boundary in place and you didn't muzzle James and his nastiness. So, James, I have another thing to say to you. Number 13. You don't have to define what the word paradigm is when you say you're according to your paradigm, your perspective. You didn't have to say that. You speaking to a scholar. Dr. Umar Johnson is an educated black man. He clearly understands what the word paradigm is. So you didn't have to repeat yourself. See, people like you're the ones that pat yourself in the back. You're so proud that you're educated and I'm smart. I'm so smart. No, you really wasn't that smart, James, because you didn't have to repeat that. But what you were trying to do was undermine Dr. Umar Johnson. That's why you did that. You're trying to undermine his intelligence because you don't see him as intelligent because he's a strong black man and his strength intimidates you. You said here, as an American, as an African American, as a Republican, you say that to say what, James? I'm with a country that believes in moving forward with each other. You're a liar. That's not what this country believes in, James. So you trying to pat yourself on the back because you're trying to please who? At the end of the day, James, you a black man. I'm an American. I'm a Republican. At the end of the day, you a black man and you will get a bullet in your back just like anybody else. So don't you ever in your whole entire life forget that. And if you did not have a mama or a papa to tell you that you were a black man and the white man will put a bullet in your back quicker than you can sneeze, then let this mama right here let you know that, because you need to be aware of that, because clearly you are forgetting your roots. And that's why you are so disturbed and turned off by Dr. Umar Johnson, because you forgot who you were and who you are, black man. That's what you have forgotten. Moving on. Number 14. Dr. Umar Johnson says to James, give an example of white folks who have systematically done things to level the playing field for black folks. I'll wait for that answer, James. I'm going to wait. Now James is yelling the civil rights. That's what he starts yelling. The Civil Rights Act, the Voting Act. James, you were emotional as hell. You got to do a better job sitting on your emotions, baby, because this was supposed to be a dialogue, not an emotional fest. So take it down several notches. You the real bully. That's what bullies do. That's what bullies do. They call people names first in a slick way. They try to cover it up in a subtle way just to get the other person to come out of character. And then you point the fingers. He did this to me. Grow up, James. Grow up, Lauren. Number 15. Now, Scott Bolden, that's your name, right? Scott Bolden, this one's for you. You made an accurate point, brother. And when you said the terminology and the narrative being used is a little misleading, not from Dr. Umar Johnson, but the dialogue at the panel. Brother, I have nothing to say to you. You on point. Righteous. You on point. I like the fact that Dr. Umar Johnson started listening to Scott Bolden, because Scott Bolden knows how to dialogue. He knows how to have a conversation even when he doesn't agree. He understands this, and I love and appreciate Scott Bolden for that. So you get the fist and 2 snaps, although I got my eye on you, Scott, because of the friends you hang out with. You know what they say, tell me who you hang out with and I'll tell you how you are. I got my eyes on you, Scott. Scott agreed with Dr. Umar Johnson on the topic of marriage being a political choice. And I agree, but I think that he missed what Dr. Umar Johnson was really trying to say. I like the fact that you made recognition to what Dr. Umar Johnson was saying. I give you that, Scott. 2 thumbs up, you know, whatever. 2 snaps up and a fist. I get it. I agree with you, but you missed the point, and that's why I got my eye on you. I don't know if you just didn't want to fight with him. Maybe you was agreeing with him because you ain't want to fight with him. I would like to hope that you was agreeing with him because you understood where he was coming from and you saw his point of view. Number 17, we're almost done. Scott agreed that if you don't marry a black woman, you will not get the support and the validation of your struggles as a black man. So, you know, he said that his mother was a civil rights activist, and she used to say that to him or to others behind closed doors. And your mother was a smart woman, Scott. So I don't have nothing to say to you, but I'm still watching you. Number 18, the level of your rhetoric is difficult for those of us in the mainstream to get our arms around. That's what Scott said. He said the level of Dr. Umar Johnson's rhetoric was difficult for those in the mainstream culture, Roland, Martin, James, Valerie, Scott, to wrap their arms around. Thank you for your truth. Just say that. Just say that. Just say, brother, right now I'm really trying to see everything and hear everything you're trying to say, but the level of rhetoric that's going around here is just really difficult for me to wrap my arms around it. That's all you have to say. Just say that makes you feel uncomfortable because it's not what you're accustomed to. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that it's right. It's just that you're not accustomed to that kind of language. So just say that. Just say that you're not accustomed to people like Dr. Umar Johnson. So I do respect you that you're saying it's difficult for you to do that, but that's all your buddies had to say on a panel. They can just say that, you know, it's really difficult and I want to be able to understand you and see it from your perspective, but I'm going to be honest, it's just difficult for me to hear it as it is because it's a different language, it's a different rhetoric, it's a different narrative. It's different than what I've been conditioned, because that's what it is. It's different than what I've been conditioned to believe. That's all you guys had to say. You did not have to go on a lynching dressed in black skin against Dr. Umar Johnson. You did not have to do it. You lost my respect because that was not necessary. You can't talk about uplifting black people, but then you turn around at any opportunity to tear this black man down only because you're uncomfortable with his rhetoric. You need to ask yourself, why are you uncomfortable? What do you fear? What do you fear? Here's the thing that I'm going to say. Dr. Umar Johnson made a point at the end when he says the panel is disconnected and doesn't represent the struggles of black America. He was so right. That is a fact. And they do not represent black America. And when they have somebody like Dr. Umar Johnson or Dr. Boyce Watkins or countless other people, including myself, that don't share the same narrative, when you meet people like us, it makes you so uncomfortable because you are dealing with your own fear and your own issues of rejection. Maybe you fear that if you agreed with somebody like Dr. Umar Johnson, if you supported someone like Dr. Umar Johnson, I think, in my opinion, the fear factor that you guys are dealing with, the fear factor has to deal with the fact that you might get rejected from the society that you work so hard to blend into. You might get rejected. Maybe you might lose your white friends. Maybe you might lose your funding because your funding is coming from white sources. I don't get it and I don't understand, but the only way that we're going to do better as a community of black people, the only way we're going to do better is that we support each other publicly no matter what. If you guys did not agree with Dr. Umar Johnson, this conversation should have been held in private. Okay, not for the whole world to see. Because what you tried to do was ostracize him and single him out and make him up to be like the crazy person. That's all you guys were trying to do. And if you did not support him, you should not have had a public forum speaking to him in an attempt to discount him and discredit him and to tear him down. That was unacceptable. And what you did is continue the cycle that we as black folk are in when we're not collaborating with each other. We're not loving each other. We're not respecting each other. In fact, we are divided. And what I saw based on the interview with Dr. Umar Johnson, Roland Martin, and Roland's lynch crew, because that's what they were out. They were black lynch people. That's all they were. What you did was you further divided us. You divided us from the ignorant folks, from the educated folks, the rich black folk from the poor black folk. You just divided us. And I don't think it did us as a community any good. So I hope that next time you think about how you're going to talk to your guests and how you're going to allow your panel members to treat your guests. Because disrespect in the black community should never be accepted or tolerated. You guys have a great day.